Welcome. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, it's morning where you are, morning, evening, afternoon. My name is Sharon Jones, and I am the CEO and founder of Nonprofit Solutions Matter. Really excited to share with you today some of the interesting things that are happening in our sector. Really want to share with you um, what it is that brought us to wanting to do this. We just realized that I feel personally that our sector is sort of under attack. And so, opposed to stepping back and doing nothing, my team and I decided to start this series called Impact Conversations to really begin to help individuals have an understanding of some of the things that they can do as a nonprofit leader, a nonprofit professional, to really create a sustainable organization. In the last, I guess, 8 or 9 months, many of the organizations that we've either worked with in the past or are currently working with are looking at closing their doors, shutting down some of their programs, or merging with other organizations. And so all of those things are realities right now. But one of the things that I wanted to do to step up was to help organizations to really look at some of the things that they can do to pivot, to possibly begin to look at how do we create a sustainable organization. And so we're bringing professionals from a number of different areas that can bring value to help you really think about how to move towards kind of pivoting to something that will enhance the work that you do. We found that nonprofit organizations have been um, focusing on, how do we raise more money? And sometimes having more money isn't the issue. Getting the next grant isn't the issue. The issue is building a strong, robust infrastructure, having programs, marketing, communications, all those things in place so you can become sustainable. And so, with that said, today we are bringing live to you an amazing woman, Jenni Ohnstad, who is the founder and CEO of Luminea Creative. And she has been in this space for quite a while. And so I'm excited to bring her on and ask for her to just share a little bit about her company, a little bit about herself, what brought her to this work, and why she has such a passion for doing this. So, Jenni, I'm going to turn it over to you to share a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Sharon. Um, can you hear me okay?
I can. Loud
Okay,
clear.
great. Thank you for inviting me here today. I just wanted to, I've loved working with Sharon on any projects and talking to her and hearing what she's up to. It's always something interesting. So I have been in the nonprofit space for over 25 years now. And I became an independent designer in 2018, focusing just on nonprofits in 2021 after the pandemic. I just realized that that's where my heart is. And when I can help a nonprofit connect with their community in a way that they understand their values, they understand their mission. We just improve the community from all levels. So I really have enjoyed doing branding and design for different nonprofits in the Nashville and national area.
Absolutely. Well, thank you because I've enjoyed working with you as well. I'm trying to remember how we met. It was probably at an event, and then we just became joined at the hip. Anytime I have a client that I feel needs a service, particularly around branding, auditing what they are currently doing, which you do so well. You actually did that for my previous company. to really look at, what is the message that you're sending out there? What does that look like? Anything from either color schemes and, really what statement are you making with your colors that you choose? So those kinds of things for me, top of mind as a CEO um, of a company and then now running a nonprofit, it's not my skill set. It wasn't anything it was just like, okay, this makes sense now that you bring that expertise to the table to really help organizations to see what it is that they're saying and what are they communicating to the world. So first of all, thank you for that, the gifts that you share. And I'm so happy that now you sort of crossed over to the nonprofit space. I'm sure you probably have some more other corporate clients as well. But one of the questions that I have for you is really talk about why it's important for an organization to have a brand audit, if I'm even using the term correctly. Why is that important?
Yeah. I think just because if you are a thriving nonprofit, you're going to evolve over time. Where you started when you founded a nonprofit or even just 5 years ago is going to be different from where you are today. And so you just want to make sure that the message and the visuals that you are putting out into the community match what you're doing internally with your
Mhm.
programs, with the impact that you're making. It's not unusual for it to get out of sync, right? I mean, that's just nature. We want to keep changing. And so we want to make sure those visuals and messaging change along with it. Um, I have heard from funders that have said if they go and they get a grant application or they meet them at an event and they hear from a staff member or ed about what they do and then they go google them and they go to the website and it looks completely different or says completely different things from what they just heard, it really throws them off, right? And if there's any hesitation with someone, you don't want that. You want them to everything to feed into what they hear initially, right?
Wow, that's important. That's incredible. I think that, particularly if a foundation or a funder is saying that, you have to take note because they're the folks that are kind of like the front line that's going to champion you and become your advocate if they do fund you. So that's really, really key. When you think about having this kind of brand audit, can you just give some like high level bullet points of what goes into an audit?
Yeah, really, when I'm doing a brand audit for someone, I am looking at all aspects of their organization. So, not only is it like what the website looks like, but it's what the social media looks like, what the email newsletters going out look like, if they have any physical materials that they're printing out, case studies, annual reports that they're sharing with potential funders or staff or clients, those little brochures that they're putting out for someone that walks into a physical space. How are those working together and are they working together well? And is the staff and development staff, is everyone talking the same way about the nonprofit? Is the staff member that's in a tent at a fair talking the same way as a development person that's in a one-on-one luncheon with a potential donor? They should be pretty close. I mean, yes, those are different audiences, but it should be have the same baseline. So when I'm looking at an audit, I'm looking at everything from the messaging to the color schemes to the fonts being used and if that logo still reflects the organization as a whole.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. So, one of the things I pride myself on is that we work with startup organizations, founder-led organizations, organizations that have zero in the bank,
Yeah.
up to possibly, $1 million. So, the smaller groups that really don't make it beyond 3 or 5 years because the infrastructure isn't in place. And so, that's the core work that we do. Many of them don't have a social media presence. They don't even have a website. What is some advice that you would give them as aside from, yes, we're going to recommend for them to work with you, But what kind of advice would you give them when they're just starting? We have our 501(c)(3, we have our board of directors, we have our mission and vision. Now we need to tell the world. Talk about what steps they should take. What should they think about first?
Yeah. I mean, you don't need a logo right off the bat. Like, I'm just going to put that out there. I don't
Hmm.
think you do. What I do think is that you need something that's consistent. So if you want to just set your name of your organization in a nice font and maybe it's in a circle with blue, um, just pick a couple of things that you use consistently. So it doesn't have to have a little doodad next to it. It could just be type that's really nice and readable and use that everywhere. Don't change it up all the time. So if you're sending out a grant application or a letterhead, just make sure it looks readable, decent. It doesn't have to have a lot of bells and whistles. For me, consistency wins over fancy graphics. Especially when you're starting out. You just don't have time for it. But if, the less decisions you have to make when you're small, the easier it is to stay consistent, right? And then really figuring out what is that elevator pitch that you're going to repeat over and over to people when they ask you what your organization is and who you do it for. My sort of magic questions are, who do you help? Why do you help them? What is it that you do to help them? And then what do you want the person sitting next to you to do about it? So do you want them to give you money? Do you want them to spread the word? Do you want them to put you in touch with someone? So just having that elevator pitch down and consistently using it everywhere in the minimum uses that you're doing. If you don't have the website, you're still out and talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely. So after they've done all of that, they have some great fonts. They've created a letterhead because, of course, they're now trying to get their message out. What steps should they take? Like, what would be the first thing? Having a Facebook page, doing social media, having a newsletter? Like, what? Because you're right, they have so much other things to think about.
Right.
Like, but having a presence that's sort of global, and I'm just going to say social media for now, what would be your recommendation? Website first, social media first? Where should they go?
If we're really small, I would just figure out where the people are that they want to get in touch with, right? It
Mhm.
could be just within their community. I
Mhm.
mean, maybe they have to be in physical rooms and doing that elevator pitch, and maybe they have a page that can hand out a one pager that talks about their organization and an email address, right? I mean, it can be really, really basic. But again, consistency. And then when you go above that, you start to get email addresses. Maybe you start sending out an email newsletter. Maybe that's all you do to the contacts that you start to make. If it's not within your community, where do the people you want to talk to hang out? I mean, if you're looking to connect with big businesses, it might be on LinkedIn. But if you're looking to reach out to a larger online community that's local to you, that may be Facebook, that may be YouTube, that may be, I don't know of many nonprofits that get a lot of traction on Instagram, but it really depends, right?
Yeah.
If you are an organization that's aimed at people under 25, you might want to be on TikTok and Instagram versus LinkedIn or anything else, right? So really, where are your people hanging? And pick one. If you're
Yeah,
small,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
don't.
in your brand audit, does it include that, helping them to assess who their audience is and where to find them?
It can, if that's something they need. Sometimes it's a matter of like seeing that they're too stretched thin,
Mm.
and just going, where are you getting the most engagement? Let's double down there and ditch everything else, right? Some people think, oh, I've got to be here and there and everywhere. But if you become really deep and narrow, you're going to get more engagement than if you're shallow everywhere else, right? I mean, you're not going to
I
catch a
love
big
that.
fish.
Deep
Yeah.
and narrow. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gets you laser focused.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
not
You
all
don't need
over
to
the
do a
place.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baby
Thank
steps,
you.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we work with a lot of global clients, particularly on the continent of Africa, and some in the UK, and many of them are raising money outside of their area. Of course, they're targeting the US. And so, of course, many of them want to have this broad social media splash so everyone sees what they're doing, the impact, and things like that to attract potential supporters. And with that, what I found problematic is that they are too broad, not what you just said, focused, and the traction isn't there, and they get frustrated because in their mind, to splash everywhere, thinking that you're going to make a difference. And so this is really helpful for me to make sure I share this with those that really think that that works. It really doesn't. And even invested these dollars in all of these different campaigns that don't really work. Defining who your audience is, finding out where they are, and then sending targeted messages, I guess is what you're saying, to those
Yeah.
groups to
Mhm.
cultivate the relationship. And that's what we talk a lot about, relationship building opposed to transactional. Why should someone care? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We're shifting
Exactly.
gears. Yeah, shifting gears. Talk about what you are finding in the sector. I started the hour, sharing, I feel like our sector is in crisis. There's so much going on with funding cuts and all these kinds of things. But what are you hearing? What are you seeing out there in your world?
I'm definitely seeing some, joining together of smaller nonprofits. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you can really make a bigger impact when you have more resources. And if you're serving the same population within the same community, it makes a lot of sense to join forces. When that happens, though, there can be some push and pull on who's going to be the leader visually, right? Yeah. So there is that whole how are we going to combine these two organizations and not alienate the half that's going to be quote unquote visually left behind, right? Because there can only really be one logo coming out of
Exactly.
that. Yeah. One website, all of that. And you don't want to scare off those long-term funders that fell in love with you from ages ago for whatever reason, whether it's because you're joining or because you're joining and suddenly they're losing that identity. So it's something that communication is really key when that happens. You just have to just put it all out there. It should not be a surprise at all. That's when you're going to alienate someone. I mean, reach out, have one-on-one lunches with your big donors. If you're going to go under the umbrella of somebody else, like you have to pull them in and tell them why it's happening, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of times it's not always financial. Sometimes it's capacity, right?
Yeah,
Or some other thing. Or this other organization does something really, really well that you don't, and you can see each other being symbiotic, once you're together. So just sharing that to those bigger donors so they understand what's happening. And sometimes what it takes is not just sliding under someone else's logo. Maybe it's a whole new organization strategic look
mm,
at what happens when those two become one. Then they are essentially a new organization. Maybe they both need a new logo going forward. And
yeah,
again, communication on why that's necessary. It's not always, but sometimes that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Thank you so much. And I've seen that in some of the organizations we've been working with that have, they use the term merger. And kind of going through that and how they communicate to their existing pool of supporters and investors and making sure that they bring them along that at the beginning, early stages of even when those conversations are happening, so that they can have that buy-in and not just feel like, okay, the thought after the fact, and now we don't even know why. So yeah, I'm just kind of thinking about some nightmares with organizations that didn't listen. So another question that I have relates to, do you feel that organizations put this communications, marketing, branding on the side because of funding cuts? Do they not prioritize it now? I don't know, because I'm not in that space. Like, are you feeling that? Talk to me about that, because I'm curious to know if they're just like, okay, we can't deal with this right now. We don't have the money for it. But it's like the most important thing.
Yes, I do see that a lot in that the marketing team gets, the last bit of money a lot of times. And sometimes hiring more fundraising, focusing on fundraising, that does raise money in the short term. But as time goes on, if people don't know what you're doing with that money, the money will dry up. And that's what marketing does. It communicates your mission. It communicates your impact in a compelling, visually compelling way. So if all of that is left behind to the wayside, 2 or 3 years down the road, all of a sudden you'll realize, well, why don't we have any new funders? Why don't we have
Yeah.
any newspaper articles talking about it? Why can't we get the TV reporter to talk to us? Well, it's because you cut all the PR, you cut all of the marketing, you're not doing an annual report anymore and sending it out. You haven't made website updates for the last 3 years. There's no newsletters going out. I mean, no one knows, right?
Yeah.
And that does take staff or a consultant, or it does take some money and time.
Mhm.
So yeah, short-term loss of it is not horrible, but if it goes on for a long time, then you will see a detrimental effect. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, I have had clients that the development team, marketing communications are on two separate tracks. Like they don't even communicate. And it baffles me to like, why do you feel like you're raising money, but you have your own sort of marketing piece around that opposed to the organization's marketing of what you do? Do you find that often in organizations?
I have seen it in the past for sure that there's sort of siloed marketing
Mhm.
and development teams, and not necessarily even that development is like, oh, I don't want to talk to marketing. It's that they don't realize how much they can help them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there have been times when I've worked in an organization and I've been hired by the marketing side, and then the development team starts to see what I'm doing and they sort of sidle over to where I am and they go, can you do something for us? We'd really like you to do this case study. Can we? And I'm like, of course I would, because that is what I should be doing for
Yeah,
you.
for sure. Yeah.
I want your stuff to look like everything else that's being put out. I want it to be everyone speaking with one voice, with one visual, consistency above all else. So,
You
uh,
can't emphasize that enough.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and it can be helpful because I want the development staff to be focused on relationships, and yes, they have a slightly different audience than if I'm talking to program clients or if I'm talking to the public, but it's not that different, and they can work together with marketing to inform the team what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what's resonating with the people that they're talking to, and then they can really make the best product for them.
Yeah, I love that. So looking to the future, as I wrestled with, wanting to do this series and thinking about, what's happening in the sector now, I have hope. I see a future where the IRS isn't reporting that startup organizations fail in the first 3 to 5 years, probably even sooner. I see a future where those organizations have built capacity that they understand that one grant is not sustainable, one major gift isn't sustainable, that they have um, an amazing brand and communication and message that everybody is on message from the board to the volunteer to the receptionist, as well as a robust, diversified revenue stream, which is a lot, it can look a lot of different ways. And so that's what drives Nonprofit Solutions Matter. That's what drives me to create those sustainable, scalable organizations that get it right because they're doing the work. There's no doubt that they're doing the work, but now how do we bring that together to help them thrive opposed to in the survival mode?
Yeah.
Or we lost this grant and now we have to like make payroll. I mean, hear it daily. Um, yeah. So what gives you hope for our industry?
I've seen it here in Nashville and around the country is community stepping up to support
Mm,
their resources that are helping their neighbors. It's been amazing how much just everyone around us has been stepping in to fill that gap, you know? And it's inspiring, really. And I don't think necessarily there is a lack of money out there. It's just going to come from different places.
I love that. I love that. Talk about something that I love that you do is your newsletter. Um, can't remember how often it comes back, but I can tell you every time it hits my inbox, I'm reading it. Talk about your newsletter, how often it comes out, how folks can sign up for it. Yeah,
Yeah, I send stuff out at least twice a month, sometimes more if there's something interesting to say. I cover everything from what to do if you're someone that doesn't have a logo yet, like stuff we talked about earlier, how to
hmm,
get your name out there, trends I'm seeing. I've sent out newsletters about things I'm hearing from the postal office on deals that they have for direct mail. Um, just trying to keep the word up of like, what are these little things that you can do to keep the consistency, to change things up when needed for a special event, how to increase the support in your community, how to communicate effectively with that community.
thank you. Well, I definitely make sure that we put the link in the description as well so folks can sign up because I have found it very informative. Being in this space for 30 years, you've been here 25. We're life learners, and there's always new trends and new things for folks to stay on top of to kind of know what's going on in their area. The other thing I wanted to kind of close with and sort of begin to wrap this up, you talked about your newsletter. Talk about your capacity. We're global. Before me moving from the US, we had, I guess, 85% of our clients were US based, and now that's dwindling because we're in Latin America as well as in Africa. Talk about, because this is a global audience that will be viewing this and a part of our sort of network of, I think, 35,000 folks. Um, what is your capacity if they reach out to you? Because we all of our work is remote. Like our entire team is remote. But if they need you, what's your capacity like?
Yeah, if it's I have several levels of services that I work with people on. Everything from a VIP design day for those small updates that people need, whether that's a case study or a donor presentation, or maybe they even need a very small brand refresh or expansion. Like I recently worked with the Nashville Shakespeare Festival here in town, and they had had the same branding for upward of 10 years, and they weren't quite ready to rebrand, but they had exactly two colors to work with and two very difficult fonts to work with, and they were like, we just need something to help us look better. And so we did a real quick refresh for them. We added more colors that made sense that they could apply to future shows. We added a couple more typefaces that they could use on social media and on posters. And it has looked great because it's giving them a framework to be consistent with a little more creativity than what they had previously. And moving up from a design day, we can work on stuff that's like a publication, an annual report, an
Mm,
anniversary book. I did a 48-page anniversary book for an organization's 60th anniversary, and it's been a showpiece for them. They hired a photographer, interviewed former clients, had all these interviews in there over the history of their organization. They have it in their front office, and when they meet with that donor, they are able to give it to them and say, look, this is what we're about. This is what the impact we've had in the community. They've really loved having it. And events, when you're having that big fundraiser or a capital campaign, it should look a little different than your branding that you have out every day. I mean, it should look a little special. It shouldn't look like it came from another planet. I mean, it should be related, but
yeah.
the way I put it is like it should look like your organization is going to the prom, right? I mean, you can
Ah,
get a little more dressed up or to church, look a little better. And again, a consistent look for everything that you're putting out for that capital campaign or for that fundraiser, so people know that it's for you and that they start to see it over and over in their feed and then potentially buy tickets or donate. Um, and then if we all go up to actual rebrand, I only do one of those at a time. So the other services I sort of fit in among other things, but I like to focus in on rebrands one at a time. So that usually takes 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the organization size and how quickly we can get through things.
awesome. Well, that's good information for our audience to have and to know. That's really great. So I'd like to wrap this up. I want to share how you can get in contact with Jenni. And let me see where this is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share this. You can scan this QR code, and this is a way that you can get in contact with Jenni. We'll also make sure that we have the her contact information in all of our social media posts coming up, as well as the YouTube video that will be on our channel with all of the, you can have the transcript as well as all the contact information there. She's available to help. We've worked with her for a number of years. She's thorough, she's amazing, graphics and intelligence around brand and what it should look like in terms of your messaging is really, really key. I mean, sometimes we are so close to it, or it's in our face every day that we take for granted a lot. And so when someone else can come in with fresh eyes to really help you see maybe a little difference of how we could tweak this better, how the messaging isn't consistent. You have it in different places and it looks different in different ways. So now I'm talking about myself. That it's just like you confuse the audience. You confuse people who could potentially be supporting you. So I think that, what you do is really key and really important because there are folks, like you said, that are busy CEOs, busy executives that are out there kind of doing the work, but totally miss the mark when it comes to sharing exactly a concise message where people get it right off the bat, like what you do, what you stand for, which is really key. Any closing thoughts that you have, Jenny, that you want to share?
I just love helping nonprofits become more well known in their community.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what you do, and that's what you do well. I am so excited that you were able to join us today. Our next speaker is Patrick Smith, who is from Free Will, who will talk about funding, different kinds of plan giving, and sort of diversifying your funding from in places where you possibly haven't thought of. And so thank you for joining us today. Here's our contact information. You can book a strategy call, visit our website, or reach out to us in any way that you see here. We'll be more than happy to support you in the work that you're doing and share this with your network. Share it with individuals that you know are possibly in need of a refresh of their brand or a case study. Many people do so much good work, but they don't tell anybody about it. Impact statements, those kinds of things that you want the world to know exactly what they've done. I mean, I love to help organizations share impact with their donors, and what that means because they want to know what their money did. And obviously, they'll give more when they know that you've done a good job with the resources that they have given you. So, Jenny, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out, and I look forward to our continued growing in our friendship and the work that we both do. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks, Sharon.
All right, you take care.
Bye.
Thank you, audience, for being here, and we will see you on Thursday at 10 a.m. Central. Take care. Bye.